I am the VP of Sales and Partnerships for KIS Payments or KISS Payments. I ended up being a 49% owner in the Canadian license. He was the 51.
No way.
I couldn't get around that. Like I'm like
Kind of going back to buying out the Canadian partner. I'm sure people want to know like how much.
$285,000 in a one-time payment. Partner calls me. He's like, I think we're going to sell. And I was like, pardon me? Like what? Immediately, he's like, I'm coming to Toronto. I got to talk to you. Okay, when are you going to be here? He's like, 6 o'clock. It's like 10:30 in the morning. And it wasn't going well. I got a call from the CEO. He goes, Mark, give me 2 weeks. What's going to happen? He goes, I can't get into it. Just give me 2 weeks. Keep doing what you're doing. 2 weeks. Okay. In 2 weeks, I got a phone call and that whole team is gone.
And what would be like the benefits, like a consumer or a business using you guys instead of big banks?
I think you said it right there. Big bank.
Oh, yeah.
And you've walked away saying, they have my best interests at heart. That was a great interaction. Most of the time when I deal with TD and they have all my banking, corporate and non, it's frustrating.
Oh, dude.
Right?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new podcast. My name is JJ Vola. Alongside here is my co-host, Cal. Welcome to another episode of What Do You Do podcast. Today, we are joined by Marc Lapointe. Marc, thank you so much for being a part of today's podcast. Give everybody a little brief description of what you do and who you are.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me out. So today, I am the VP of Sales and Partnerships for KIS Payments or KISS Payments. So obviously we like to keep it simple and straightforward with KISS, but so we do everything to do with payments and then some. So,
wow, awesome. We look forward to understanding what you do and dive into that. Let's talk about some of your younger years coming out of high school. What were some of your first jobs and led you to where you are today?
Coming out of high school, I guess it actually started before high school. I've always had a love for cars from my dad. He was a mechanic and an auto shop teacher at a high school. So cars turned into working at Canadian Tire in the automotive department. And then that was a big one because I was there for a number of years through high school and even after. And then really that was my only real job throughout high school. After that, we went to Georgian College. So I did the automotive business school at Georgian College, and it was phenomenal because I went to school for business and cars all day. So that took 4 years. And after that, I started selling cars. I decided that I was going to get into sales and give it a try. My parents were not interested in that. They're like, you went to school for 4 years and you're going to sell cars. But I gave that a go, and I worked at Budds Subaru in Oakville.
Oh, cool.
Grew up in Burlington, but so worked in Oakville. And that was incredible. Like 24, 25 years old, making a good amount of money, selling cars, working weekends, working evenings, but driving different cars every couple of weeks. I was in and out of a different vehicle. So I had a lot of fun doing that. That was probably one of my funnest and best jobs, but again, making a ton of money, living at home at the time. But that was probably the big one. And then from there, I decided in 2010 that I was going to go back to school. So I went back to school and did a master's, just a master's of business admin, but I went to Europe to do it. So
cool.
I decided that I was going to take off to Switzerland.
No way.
And so that was it was quite an experience. The first time in Europe, I remember getting off the train in Montreux, Switzerland, and I had like a backpack, had a big bag, my snowboard bags. Couldn't leave that at home.
Swiss Alps, right?
Yeah, Swiss Alps.
How was it?
I was looking at them every day. Snowboarding there is epic. It is unreal. The mountains are everywhere, obviously, but just a different culture, different setting. I told myself when I got there that I'm like, if you're gonna do this, you're going all in, right? It's no matter what, you're gonna hear and you're gonna crush it. And thankfully, I did. I did really well. It was only a 1-year MBA. So it was like Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, you're at school. So it was really interesting. Learned a lot, came back a completely different person, like more patience, more knowledge, more awareness, I think, of myself and my surroundings. But that was a game changer for me, I think, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where'd you get the idea to go to Switzerland for schooling? Like, where did that kind of come about?
I guess when I told myself this is what I wanted to do, I started looking at options in Canada. I reached out to a professor at Georgian, Alan McGee, who was phenomenal, really good guy, helped me out through school. So I reached out to him after when I was thinking about doing this, and he's like, well, we have some programs. Why don't you look at the programs in the States that we're affiliated with? So I did, and it turns out that, I could have went to Florida or Texas, But then somebody along the way were like, well, we're affiliated with a school in Switzerland as well. And I was like, well, what's that about? So then we started looking into that, and I found out the cost was only going to be like an extra, I think it was like 10 grand. So for $10,000 more, I could go to Switzerland, and it was one of those situations where you cut them a check, room, board, food. I get a bus and a train pass. So really, it was like cut them a check. You're there. You're good to go. So yeah, it was in a French part of Switzerland. I speak French natively from when I was a kid, and I said, let's do it. And my parents were shocked. They're like, you want to go all the way there? Yeah, why not? So I did. And yeah, definitely an eye-opening experience, right? Like I said, never been to Europe before. I'd been on my own, but not like, hey, you're in a different country. Like,
Right.
you gotta figure this out.
Sure.
So it was really, it was a big one for me.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sure like just the lifestyle, the food, the waking up in the morning is completely different than, than Hamilton, Ontario.
Yeah. I love Hamilton. I grew up in Burlington. My mom worked in Hamilton. Dad worked in Oakville. Like this is my home, right?
Right.
I live in Niagara Falls now, just obviously down the QE, but I don't know, this whole area is like you're comfortable with, right? Like I can go all the way to Toronto. I kind of know where I am, all the way around the lake to
Right.
Niagara. So
Yeah.
I love the area though,
Cool.
for sure.
Yeah, it is peaceful. Well, just being around the lake, it's cool when it wants to be. It's hot when it wants to be.
A lot of green space.
Yeah,
know
true.
what? It's a good spot for sure.
Awesome. And what? So after coming out of Switzerland, what was one of some of your first jobs or careers?
Yeah. So when I came home, I thought I was going to go back into the automotive world. And then, I just started kind of making some phone calls, reaching out to some people. To be honest with you, when I got home, my friend needed help with landscaping. So I started shoveling dirt and rock and, building retaining walls with him just because I had no idea what I was going to do or how long it was going to take to find an actual job. So, from doing that, I met a gentleman who I'd been introduced to before, but he had reached out again and asked me, he said, listen, what are you doing? So I told him landscaping right now. He's like, well, I'd like to meet with you, talk to me about an opportunity. So met with him and sat down, and they licensed a software technology that did loyalty and retention for the automotive dealers. So basically it was like your Shopper's Optimum program for a car dealership, like specifically for them. And I was interested. He said, listen, you're going to be in automotive. You're going to be selling the software or trying to get, obviously, clients on board. And we've got this program. I would like you to run the east of Canada. I have somebody running the west. And he's like, you speak French? Yes. So like, cool, we're good. So I was in charge of essentially Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritimes. And if you know anything about the automotive industry, like 70% of car sales come from, or at the time, this is going back a while, but at the time, 70% of car sales came from Quebec and Ontario. You factor in the Maritimes, that's another 7%. So basically 3/4 of the industry is in our side of the country, right?
Wow.
Or in the east.
And I come from the car sales. I used to be in car sales for about 4 years at Leggett Chevrolet in Burlington.
Amazing.
And selling Cadillacs, all that kind of stuff. And it's funny, I never knew that fact.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Well, when were you there? When were you selling cars?
Yeah, so it would have been 2018.
28. Okay.
Yeah,
so-
because I've been in sales for like the last 6 years.
Gotcha.
Because the last 2 years or 3 years rather, I was in the power sports industry.
Nice.
And then, but I'm just trying to think because I finished school, like because I went to school for be apprentice mechanic as well too. And then I was like, I'm styling my hair every day. Like, why would I be a mechanic? Taking the oil from the car, doing one of these.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and I was just such a well-spoken talker at the time. And I was like, I want more to my life than just working on cars because it was just such a headache, right? Like I like working on my own car, not somebody else's problem, right?
Yeah.
And then I think it was it must have been 2016 to 2018 is when I first kind of got into it and then loved it because I specialized in wanting to be like the truck specialist.
Yeah.
Instead of because there was already a Cadillac guy, a Corvette guy, and all that kind of stuff, but no one was the truck guy. And I was like, you guys are missing the boat.
Oh,
You
for
know
sure.
what I mean? Like everyone needs a truck, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, especially different types of clientele that come in because you've got your mom and pops that they want one for their family vehicle. Obviously, you've got the work trucks and the commercial guys, but yeah, I think anytime you could specialize, especially in sales, you're going to do really well.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity to do really well. But you could have been there when when myself or maybe one of my partners or colleagues came in and pitched the dealer.
Were they a client?
No, like we always tried to get the Leggett group, and I thought we were close at times. I remember going in probably like 2013, 2014, and pitched. I want to say Jim Morrison, who maybe was the GM or, around that time.
Yeah.
Maybe the name's wrong. The
Oh,
last
Tim.
name,
Yeah, Tim Morrison. Yeah.
Tim Morrison.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the last name was right for sure. But yeah, like we had this product, and it was a lot of like right time, right place, right industry. We always used to joke about like we had the DVD player at the time, right? When people were still on VHS.
Yeah.
And it wasn't cheap, but as time went on, it got cheaper, right? And when DVDs first came out, a DVD player was probably $1,000, and then it went to $99 at the end of the day or something, right? So we had very similar, I guess, product that we'd go in and offer that was, ahead of its time, but right place, right time, right industry, and people were willing to do it. And when I joined, we had a few clients that I would manage in Ontario already. Quebec was a tough one because the Quebec auto industry and the Quebec market in general is tough to work in if you're not from there, or if you're not local to the province. But at the end of the day, I started working for them in 2011. We did extremely well. We had 2 years of I drove 100,000 kilometers across the province into Quebec. Wow. Just cold calling, knocking on doors, trying to make appointments with network and friends and all that goodness and good work. But it was a lot. But we were able to just blow up. And I think we went from maybe 8 dealers. In over 2 years, we were at close to 39, which doesn't sound like a lot. But when you're doing it yourself, you're a one-man show. We're really selling this software. The owner of the software is in the States. So they did a lot of the we'll get the dealer set up. You go do the training, right? So they would do the technical setup, the integration. We would go in and get them up and running and the onboarding and training. But,
cool. And what was the software for specifically?
So rewards programs for dealerships. So the idea behind it was if you buy a car at the store or at the dealer, we're going to enroll you in this program. So you'd get a key fob, you might get a card. And as you went into the service department and got service done, you would earn rewards, or in this case, dollars. So most of the programs were you spend $100, we're going to give you 10% towards your next car. We'll give you 5% towards your next service. So you have $10 in your sales account, you have $5 in your service account. And over time, it would just build up. And we found that people would service their vehicle, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 later. They would have $200, $300 off a car, and they would have, $60, $70, $75 in their service account. Next thing you know, their next oil change is free. So that would incentivize and motivate people. And that's the whole idea behind these rewards program. How do we retain the clients?
Yeah.
We're selling all these cars, but how do we make sure we get them into service? So then we started getting creative by, if you buy a car, we'll give you $100 in your account for service. Start you off with, a free oil change or something right away. We'll incentivize you. And then we started doing things like, how can we get all the dealership involved in this? So if you bought parts, you got rewards. If you, hey, Cal, go buy a car from JJ. And when you do come in to see us, we're going to give you money in your service account. So the more you referred people. And then we had all these different kind of touch points where people were getting money in their account, right? Spin the wheel for an extra $500 in your account. So everything we did, we wanted to keep them at the dealership.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it worked. Like we started doing the analysis, taking a look at the numbers and the data. And all of a sudden it was like, wow, we can show that customers who are part of this program that bought a vehicle from you, they are, I can't remember the number exactly, let's say 2.5 times or 2.3 times more likely to visit you in service. And those people that keep servicing with you are 5 times more likely to buy their next car with you. So next thing you know, we had the interest of dealership principals or the owners. We had the general managers were like, yeah, this works. You're increasing my hourly, my hours per RO, how many ROs we're doing. Everything was positive in terms of the metrics. And because of that, we started getting a lot of attention. In 2013, I was able to buy out the owner of the Canadian license. So he was, early 80s looking to get out this, not for me anymore kind of thing. So I was able to buy it, at least the Canadian portion of the license, with my partner in the States. So I needed money. So I was like, do you want to do this with me? It's good for you. You put in some money and we continue on. We're just going to go. And he gave me the confidence that yeah, let's do it.
Wow.
So I ended up being a 49% owner in the Canadian license. He was the 51.
No way.
Couldn't get around that. I'm like, it's your equity, it's your software, but I'm doing the work. Let's go. So we made it work. I put in a little bit of money, and yeah, next thing you know, a little bit before this, I guess I had a partner come on, or like an employee, but I called him a partner because he did everything I did. So he came on. His name was Craig. Cal, you know Craig.
Yep.
And we just said, listen, like, let's go. Let's kill this. We'll just go and we'll just crush what we can and just make a lot of money. We'll get a lot of clients. We'll show that this can work and really well. And luckily we did. And I think over the course of 2 years, we blew up. We had close to 90 dealerships that we were working with. We were a staff of 4.
Wow.
Yeah, we were making a ton of money. And then we really started to understand what we were doing. And at the time, subscription revenue, what they call monthly recurring revenue, or MER, software sales, that was all booming at the time. And that's really what we were doing. And we didn't know, because we're car guys. We're going out selling something. But then we really started to clue in that, like, hey, we're software, we're tech, we have these neat things that we can do. So we started getting my partner, the guy who owned the product, to start developing. And so we came up with a mobile app if dealerships wanted that. And we came up with email marketing, right? Promotions that we could send out. So all of this stuff started coming together. And like, next thing you know, we're able to make more money from our client. And, you know, they were getting more ROI. They were feeling the positive effects of the program. So we didn't feel like we were just selling them something. We were selling them a real good product that they could leverage.
And value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we got to the point where internally we're like, if a dealer does what we tell them to do with the product, they will get X, right? We know that's going to happen. And we were so confident in that. And that's why we really took off. And I think what really got us noticed is we had been working with the Dilawri group of companies. So at the time, they had 13 dealerships in Ontario, and we had every one of them. All individual programs, which is a little bit different because dealer groups like to do things together. So next thing you know, head office for all of Canada got involved, and they're like, well, we have dealerships in Saskatchewan, Regina. They have dealerships in Calgary. We have dealerships in Vancouver. Overall, at the time, they had 51 stores.
Wow.
Yeah. So they get involved, and they're like, we'd like you to put a proposal together. Okay, here we go. So we put a proposal together. We were talking to our network. I was talking to family, like business family, that like, how do I position this? Like, can you help me? Give me some ideas. And anyway, we put it together with the submission. We found out we were competing against one other company, our main competitor in the space in Canada. And then I called the VP of, I guess, operations up, and I said, David, listen, we don't want to lose this. We know we've got a really good product, and final pricing, here you go. Here's everything. And we did it at the time for, I think it was like $385 a month. But across 50 stores, it was like $20,000 of monthly revenue, monthly recurring subscription-based revenue, like
Wow.
good stuff.
Jesus.
And a week later, I got the phone call, and David's like, "You sitting down?" I was like, "No, why? Like, what's going on?" And he was like, "Congrats! Like, we want to move forward with Dealer Rewards and Evolve. Those were the two entities that were kind of putting this forward." And obviously, I thanked him, and like, we chatted for a couple of minutes. He's like, "We'll talk in the next couple of weeks about like training and implementation and what's the rollout going to look like." And I hung up that call. I looked at my partner Craig, and I'm like, holy shit, we did it. Like, we're done. And then it kind of sank in that we're like, okay, now we got to figure this out. And this was like, I want to say like May or June. And it was like, oh man, like we have to figure this out. Like, what are we going to do? Sure. So anyway, we worked through all that, and I needed money. I got a loan from my mom and dad for $10,000. I got a loan from a family for $50,000. No interest, pay me back when you can, kind of thing. And I went over to them. I wanted to do it properly. I signed up these paperwork, right? So I made them each sign a contract that like, here's repayment terms, here's what's going to happen, this is what we're going to do. And anyway, that fall, we started going live. So I was on the road for 9 weeks over the course of 2.5 months, or 9 weeks over the course of 3 months. And we were setting up dealers right across the country.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Incredible.
Collecting checks every time, but like, yeah, that's when we blew up, and that's what really put us on the map.
And what year was that?
So rolling out that program live was 2014.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's the business. That's the, like, if if you've got something, go. Like, do whatever you can and just go.
And what was the initial, like, just out of curiosity, if you can
No.
share this, like, what was the initial price that you would charge the dealers, like, when you were, like, year one?
Yeah. So you bring up an interesting point, because what we found was that Western Canada dealers were willing to spend more money on the same program. But because there was so much competition and so many more dealers in Ontario, we weren't able to charge what we could charge. So anyway, at the end of the day, we started at like $795 is what we were charging dealers. No contract, right? If it's not working, if we can't prove it to you, that's fine. We'll let you walk away, which dealers really liked, right? They didn't like contracts. But at the end of it, we started coming down, and in Ontario, most of the deals we were doing were like $500-600 a month. Western Canada might have came down a little bit, like $695. But then, yeah, when we had dealer groups, it's like, okay, well, now we got to sharpen our pencil, negotiate. They're asking us for it. So when we did Dilawri, yeah, we got it down to $385 across the country, which was, it's a steal for them. But again, that monthly revenue, which flowed, like, you know, it put us right into the black, but like all of a sudden we were able to really get a lot of things done, able to bring on more staff, spend a little bit more on development, making things look a little bit better. So yeah, like things cost money, which you realize, and then, you know, you got to pay for it, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. Oh my god!
And that must have been like just a crazy summer for you, like onboarding all the dealerships,
Insane.
traveling around to all 51 dealers.
Right across Canada. That was our commitment. We were going to go. Each dealer was going to pay a training fee. So they had a one-time training fee, but we were at each dealer, 2 people at each dealer for a full day, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, Monday, one store, Tuesday, one store, Thursday, you know, just keep going. Right. And then weekends off. But obviously we're in Calgary over the course of a weekend. So it's, you know, have a little bit of fun, see some people, maybe connect with some people you haven't seen in a while that live out there, and then start again on Monday.
Sure.
And just to make sure, this wasn't like a CRM. Like, you had to connect with people, like their software, right? So
Exactly.
taking someone else's, like, I'm just trying to think, like Reynolds, like for example, like I know that was big in the car dealerships. Like, you would have to take their software.
We would integrate to it. So
Right.
the gentleman, Tim, my partner in the States, who owns this software, and he still does really well for himself in the US, they had done the integrations for the management system. So Reynolds, CDK. We had Surdy as another one, PBS another one. So most of them we had integrations to, unless there was like a small player or regional player, or maybe somebody had their own. But we always found a solution. And I think that was the one thing we went in trying to be proactive. Like, you know, you want this, what are you using? How can we help? How do we have to communicate with this technology? But for the most part, we were already there in that space with the product. So we could go into a dealership that had Reynolds and say, yeah, we're going to download your information nightly, weekly, whatever we can do. And we're going to populate that information into our database. And your staff is going to go in, they're going to take a look and say, okay, well, you have, you know, Cal's got $85 of rewards. Do you want to use that on today's estimate? Right. And as a salesperson, we were able to show their salespeople, their service advisors who are in sales, right? They're not service advisors, they're salespeople in service. And we would show them how to leverage. So if you had, you know, an $800 brake job that you needed to get done, well, JJ, you've got $150 in your rewards account from all that service you've done with us. Let's put that towards today's bill and bring that cost down for you. And next thing you know, they're getting more yeses. And it's just best practices, right? How to leverage the tools that you have. And then we started looking at, you know, what other tools are dealerships using and how can we, you know, play with those or use those. And that's when the marketing kicked off. So we had, you know, the email marketing I talk about. We started doing direct mail. At one point, we were doing like 25 to 30,000 pieces a week of mail for our clients across the country. Wow. So you had your subscription revenue on the program, but then you had all this one-time revenue, OTR. And we were leveraging our marketing to be able to get more revenue from our clients. And at the end of the day, we had, I don't know, maybe close to $500,000 to $600,000 of each coming in annually. So $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, you know, coming in monthly of revenue that we were doing with a 4-person operation. We had one girl in Calgary or in Vancouver. Yeah. She was phenomenal. And then we had myself and Craig in Ontario, and then we had Jordan at the time in Edmonton. And he was more of an operations guy, but if we needed him to go to a dealer, he would go. And so you can imagine, like, we're just having the time of our lives, like traveling the country.
Yeah.
I was on a plane a week, I would say, when we were doing this. I was on the road a week a month, guaranteed, visiting the country.
Yeah. Just shaking hands, asking if they need any questions or anything like that.
Visiting clients, getting referrals, seeking out new business, meeting with Chrysler Canada and their Western business office. So
Wow.
we had some good stuff happen during that time.
And you did spin the wheel in the dealerships. That was one of the promos?
You know what? The dealers were doing it already, right?
Yeah.
Some guy, you can't break them out of their 1980s sales habits. But,
I asked because I spun the wheel.
right? So
I got like $1,000 off. I was like, yes, heck yeah, So no.
And that's what we wanted was how do we leverage these programs? And we didn't want to take anything away. We just wanted to add to it and say, hey, if you leverage this in this fashion, what's Cal going to do with that $1,000 he just won at your dealership? He's not going to Best Buy for a TV. He's going to come and spend it with you, right? Or, we'll figure something out to incentivize him to come in. But yeah, you could have a lot of fun marketing wise with these types of programs, which is, to me, sales marketing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
What more do you want?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I just find it like just mind blowing. Okay, like you come from the car sales industry, and then all of a sudden tech software, and just understanding how the software works and how you can integrate it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And I didn't have to worry about a lot of that in the beginning because we had the owner and his team doing a lot of the tech and development. But my cousin, who I'm pretty close with, just we're the same age, we connect on a lot of different things. He was in tech, and he was a bigwig, I'd like to say, but traveling globally, doing technical development work and consulting and all this kind of stuff. So whenever I had something that I didn't understand, I remember the first time I heard the term API, automated program interface. What the hell is that, guys? So I call him up and he starts walking me through everything. I'm like, all right, I think I can understand this. And then, somebody explains it in layman's terms. Okay, perfect. Now I'm good. And now I can go and share that, right? And you keep learning about it. But yeah, that got me started in tech.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, obviously, tech is all there is. Well, I shouldn't say that, but tech is a lot of what we do today.
Yeah.
And even how we consume a podcast is on tech.
Yeah.
So different areas, but tech is such a big part. And I got lucky. I stumbled into it.
Yeah.
I totally stumbled into something that I was like, oh, I need to understand this. I think I should.
Yeah, true.
So
That's incredible, man. And just kind of going back to buying out the Canadian partner, I'm sure people want to know how much would something like that cost? If you can.
Yeah, no, for sure. So at the time, it was probably, I want to say, $285,000 in a one-time payment that we made to him, and I had, I don't know, maybe 35 or 40 of that, which is why I had to go to my partner in the U.S. to be like, hey, if I want to do this, Bob wants out. How do we figure it out? And he said, okay, well, we can come up with the rest. That's fine. Let's do this. So he came up and we started a corporation. So it wasn't a lot of money at the time, but the company hadn't taken off yet. It's just, like I said, he was 82, 83. He had done well for himself in different areas. And he was like, I'm out. I can walk away now. And he was getting, $250,000 isn't nothing, but yeah. And after that's when the company really started blowing up, and we got, I don't say we got lucky, but we did. Luck had something to do with it.
For sure.
But it was a lot of hard work and a lot of effort that went into it. But yeah, I'm sure if you look at valuations and all this kind of stuff that went into it, again, right time, right place. He wanted out. He wasn't waiting for a $2 million paycheck or anything like that. So I think a lot of things worked in my favor at the time. But yeah, I'm sure he would have made more money if he held on a little longer. Right? I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. And now, is that what you're still doing today, or?
No. So
Okay.
I'd say it's a side hustle today.
Yeah.
Definitely a side hustle, something I'm still involved or passionate about. And I still work with dealers under the Evolve name. We work with a couple manufacturers as well, doing some program management. No, we don't really do any rewards programs anymore. I think for me, that time has passed. But if there's a dealer that inquired about it, I can certainly facilitate it. But now we do a lot of marketing, program management, and consultation for the Evolve side. And again, that's probably more of a side hustle that I spend a few hours a week on, if that.
Right. So what's your main focus today?
So the main focus today is payments. Depending on how you look at it, people talk about fintech, and that's I don't say buzzword, but it's financial technology is a big one, but definitely in the technology space with payments. And I've grown to love what it does and what it represents. And there's so much opportunity and blue sky It's, it's an industry that's not going to go anywhere. Over COVID, it took off because people didn't want to use cash. And even today, I don't think that'll come back. If you look at other cultures, other areas of the world that are ahead of us in payments, digital tokenization, digital payments, QR codes. You look at China, they've been doing that for years. They've got their WeChat Pay app that does everything, right? It's like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and payments all built in. But they're just further ahead of us. And I remember we were on a layover to Shanghai back in like 2016, 2017, when I first was getting into payments or first starting to understand what it was about. And I held up a terminal and I'm like, the hell is this? Like, we don't even have something like this here. And people are walking up, they're scanning a QR code, they're entering something on their phone and they're paying. And I was like, this is phenomenal. Like, this is completely foreign to us. And I just sat there and paid with my credit card and left, right? It's normal. But yeah, I think that was a big turning point to see what was coming. And again, India's apparently like they're pushing payment technology and how peer-to-peer payments, P2P payments are done. And all that will come eventually here. It's just Canada's well regulated. We have a very secure banking system. We have a very secure payment network, but we don't get all the bells and whistles because of that. And it's getting better, and we're getting a lot more now. And I'd say over the past 2-3 years, it's been like leaps and bounds. But the U.S. is slowly catching up because they're just getting into EMV and chip debit and PIN cards, and that's becoming a more popular thing over there. And we've had that for years. So it's interesting, the dynamic and where it comes from. But to see those changes happen to me, it's mind blowing because nothing's going to stop it. It's not going to slow down, especially when you start talking about crypto and other types of payment. That's just even further ahead where some people aren't comfortable talking about that today. So there's a lot to come, but definitely a lot that I've learned and I'm excited about in the payment space for sure.
Wow. And how long have you been doing that for?
I started in payments I started learning about it in 2018 and got into it in 2019.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And that was just, you had Evolve going. Obviously, things were going super, super well. And then how did you kind of transition over to this new space? Like, was it?
Yeah. In 2015, I want to say April of 2015, rewards were just our thing. We were flying full steam ahead. And I got a call from my partner. And yeah, you probably remember some of this story because you were around back then when we had the office.
Yeah.
So 2015, my partner calls me. He's like, I think we're going to sell. And I was like, pardon me? Like, what? And immediately, he's like, I'm coming to Toronto. I got to talk to you. I was like, okay, when are you going to be here? He's like, 6 o'clock. It's like 10:30 in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, It was on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And I want to say I was with my dad somewhere. I don't think we were golfing, but I was with my dad, and I immediately hung up the phone. I'm like, I got to get home. I got to, go freshen up and shower and shave and everything. And he's like, why? What's going on? I'm like, Tim just called. He's getting on a plane to Toronto. He's like, what, now? I'm like, yes, now. So yeah, took off, got ready. I picked up my partner, Craig, and we drove to Pearson. And sure enough, I get there and we met him at a restaurant. We sit down. He's like, I'm pretty sure we're going to buy or we're going to sell. I was like, what is going on? Like, what happened? He goes, our number one competitor, Accrue, who we were competing against Delari, called him and said, I want to buy you guys. So what had happened, unbeknownst to us, is we started taking a lot of his clients. So we took the Delari group and he had a few of those stores, but there were other stores throughout Canada that were working with Accrue that switched to us. And some we knew about, but some we didn't. And next thing you know, we had like 18 of his stores. So if you factor in maybe the average was $500 a month, well, it's $9,000, right? Like there's a lot of money there in monthly recurring revenue that we took away from him. So we got his attention. And so be it. I had 49% of the company. I can't do much. And in terms of stopping it or asking. And so we sat down, we went through everything. And I mean, it was a good deal for him. I was going to do okay with it, but it was a really good deal for him. Let's be honest. And he was getting some other things happening too on the technology side because he owned it. So yeah, at the end of the day, I didn't have a choice in the matter. And a month and a half later, mid-June of 2015, we closed. And at the time, Steve Levely, the CEO of Accrue, had said, nothing's going to change right away, but I need you to give me some time to figure these things out and learn all about what this is going to be like. because they didn't do what we did. I guess no. They had the similar type of technology, but they didn't do it the way we did it, right? They weren't pitching it the same way. They did no marketing. They were all like an older technology that was manual. We were all automated and integrated. So they didn't have any of that. So they needed to learn it and they needed to figure it out. And that was up to us to try and show them and teach them and everything that goes along with that. And sure enough, it was a rough integration because they had a team. We had my team. Everyone came over. That was great. We all got good salaries. We're all, making money. Everything's fine. It's just not mine anymore. And I would say the first 6 weeks were really hard. I was clashing with my boss, who was the VP of sales, because I was just a salesperson now and running kind of the automotive side of the business. And I was clashing with her, and I'm like, we need access. Like, you're asking us to support our people, but we don't have email set up yet. Like, what do you want us to do? And it wasn't going well. And I got a call from the CEO. He goes, Mark, give me 2 weeks. Sure. What's going to happen? He goes, I can't get into it. Just give me 2 weeks. Keep doing what you're doing. 2 weeks. Okay. In 2 weeks, I got a phone call, and that whole team is gone. So their VP of sales, their director of operations, and 3 of their staff are gone. And he's like, you guys run it. Automotive, figure it out, go. And okay, here we go. So we started doing that. And then he gave us the restaurant space because they did gift cards and loyalty programs for restaurants. And then he gave us the retail space. And then we got their automotive clients. So next thing you know, my team is now running everything for a crew. They had other staff too, and their staff that stayed were great. So next thing you know, we had this thing where it's like, okay, now, we're here. Everything's kind of sunk in. We've got good staff. We've got a good plan. Let's go. And we started to do really well. And as companies get bigger, challenges get in, there's more hierarchy. Development's a little bit slower because we have a development team. They've got their own things that they need to get done. And I ended up staying there till 2019. So I was there for 4 years, or just under 4 years. And got into a disagreement with the CEO. I didn't think they were doing things the way I would have, which maybe is my ownership hat on when I wasn't an owner anymore. I don't know. But we had a falling out. So in April of 2019, I got my papers. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not here anymore, which is hard because, better part of 10, 11 years, it was mine. And even when I was working there, I still considered it mine. It was just like, these are my clients. Like, I spent a decade here.
Right.
And next thing you know, it's not yours anymore. That was tough.
Dude.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, it was heavy. So,
how'd you get through that? Like, dealing with that and, something that you built for 10 years, your baby, and you built it. Like you were the one on the ground, getting this thing going. And
just got married in the summer, the previous summer, just had a kid. Next thing you know, unemployed. Like, wow. So a lot of friends, family, definitely my wife. Like, that was a big one. Having my daughter at home was big because that was like, okay, there's your sunshine. That stuff will make you feel better. But it was tough. And I went through, I don't want to say depression, but what I went through was tough in my own way, or tough in its own way for me, because I'm not used to that. I wasn't used to it at all. And I didn't do much of anything until I'd say the late summer. September is when I got a phone call, or August, I got a phone call about maybe doing something in payments. And I wasn't sure about it, but that time through the spring and summer was like lazy on the couch, not doing anything, going outside, clean the pool, hang out for an hour, 2 hours. Just, I didn't do anything. And that was bad for somebody like me. So again, I don't know, I don't want to say it was depression because I don't want to take away from what people that really have that bad or that really hits them hard. But whatever I went through was not fun and I needed to get out of it. And I remember Kathy and my wife coming to me being like, you need to get your shit together, or at least, you need to get going, find something. And slowly things happened, I guess. And then I got a call from the owner of Kiss Payments in, I want to say August. And he was like, why don't you come work for me? Why don't you come work for me? And I was like, I don't really know payments. I know a little bit about it from my days at a crew, but I don't know. And then he called me up again. He said, listen, I want you to come out to their head office. It's in Nanaimo, which is Vancouver Island. Special spot in Canada, beautiful spot in Canada. And he's like, why don't you come out to Nanaimo for 2 weeks? I'll pay for you to come out here. Everything's, just come out, spend 2 weeks with us, meet some staff, meet some people, see some clients, and I'll teach you about the industry. But come out and see what you think. what do I have to lose? I'm going to Victoria, or I'm going to Vancouver Island. I got family in Victoria that I'll get to see. Again, if you've ever been there, it's a beautiful spot in the country. One of those places where if you get there, it'll pick you up, right? You're looking at the ocean, you're looking at mountains. It feels good, right? It'll hit you if you're in the right mindset. So I went out, and after 2 weeks and visiting family out there and being with them, I was like, okay, I'm in. What are we doing? And came home, talked to my wife about it. Here's the offer. Here's the package. This is what it's going to look like. Here's my role. And she was like, if you want to do it, do it. And I was going to work from home. So with their office being obviously on the island. So I jumped in 2 feet, started learning everything I could about payments. I got books. I listened to podcasts. I was talking with the owner on a daily basis. Like, what's this? How's this? He wrote a book, and it's just a 70-page read, very easy to get through. But if you want to learn payments and the basics back the way they were a few years ago, here's a good book. And so I went through that, made notes, made questions, started, talking to the other partners in the company, and just bought in hook, line, and sinker, started trying to sell. I remember when I got my first account, I was like, oh, it's a unicorn, right? It's like selling your first car.
Yeah.
And it was a small account. The gentleman was selling, him and his wife were selling baked goods at farmers markets, and they just wanted something that they could take around and take payments on. So I could facilitate that. Off we go. And I've been doing that since September of 2019. So coming up on, I guess, 4 years this September. And it's been a crazy ride. But building a portfolio, my specific role for them originally was just a sales manager. I was going to do my own selling and work with the team. And I think that was important for me because I knew what they were doing and I knew what they were going through and the objections they were getting because I was trying to sell too. Mm-hmm. So on our team calls that we had, I could actually relate to what they were going through and saying, well, I just tried to pitch a restaurant and I got to know, and here's why. And what did you do? We've done extremely well. Obviously the pandemic happened after that. And in a weird way, the pandemic was great for our business because people were either shut down or they realized how much payments were costing them because everybody's business took a hit. And here's ours flourishing because an owner would call us and say, hey, listen, I'm closed. I've been looking at my payment system. It's not good enough, or my pricing's not good enough, or I want a comparison because they had time. So I found a lot of business owners were doing this vendor analysis or partnership analysis. Who am I working with? Why? What does it cost? What do they do? How can I make this better? And we had a system that could do that. We could facilitate typically less expensive payments, better technology. So we grew, and we grew I want to say 30% each year.
Wow.
So we took off, and I got, again, I think right time, right place. We really started positioning the brand as a support and service, technology, and transparency. So that was the kind of the three, I guess, brand pillars that we wanted to bring. And when we were talking to customers, we were getting those 3 points across, and it resonated with a lot of people. So we did really well. And then again, got lucky with the timing, but we've got some really good staff, really good salespeople that were out in the field, knocking on doors, getting accounts, and we started getting our name out there. So this little payments company that started on the island that was doing really well on the island and in the lower mainland, now all of a sudden we were getting attention across Canada. Quebec is still a tough market. We do have clients there, but Quebec's a tough market, even with me speaking French. Mm-hmm. But we've got clients in pretty much every province right across the country now. So it's kind of neat to see.
Now we're talking payments as in a terminal payment or an online payment.
So both.
Okay.
Think of any type of business transaction that involves currency, we can typically facilitate it. So whether it's e-commerce online, whether it's on a terminal or a point of sale terminal, and even some things where it's like a B2B transaction. So, we have a platform where, let's say one of our clients can log in and say, okay, well, I owe the What You Do podcast $5,000 for, all the stuff that I've bought from them. And I'm just going to pay them by an EFT, electronic funds transfer, or a bank transfer.
Right.
So they can do all of that. So we can do debit, credit, online, in-store. We can do wire transfers, EFTs. We can do ACH if you're a U.S. bank, automated clearinghouse payments. So yeah, for me, we can facilitate payments for any business, but that gets dangerous because you can facilitate payments for any business, right? You've got to have a focus. You've got to have not only what you're doing as a brand, but who you're trying to attract and who you're trying to work with. So there was a learning curve with that because it's like, hey, we can work with everybody. Let's go try and work with. Well, no, that doesn't work. And we wanted to let our technology partners and the companies that we partner with kind of dictate, well, what are you strong in? How can we use our strengths, go after a certain market? And I think we've done well at that. I think we haven't done it great, but we're getting better, and the company's still growing. So,
And what would be like the benefits, like a consumer or a business using you guys instead of like, big banks?
I think you said it right there. Big bank.
Oh yeah.
Slow. Customer service.
I gotta watch what I say.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm kidding.
But no, but you're right. Is that like payments it's a financial transaction and it's going through the bank. It's getting cleared and deposited into a bank, right? So there's no way around that. And the banks have run the payment industry in Canada for so long. And it wasn't until I was there where you start realizing why. And it's because they have a captive audience. So Moneris is a joint venture between RBC and BMO, two very large banks. Then you have TD Merchant Services. They do their own processing. They're not, it's a TD owns the company, but it's at arm's length. It's a separate company altogether, right? And then you get like Chase Bank, Chase Payment Tech, which is obviously owned by JP Morgan Chase out of the US. But the thing is that when you're a business owner or when you're starting out, you're going to go to RBC and you're going to have your corporate papers and your articles and your license. You're going to go to them and say, here's everything. I need a bank account. And they're going to say, great. And they open up a bank account for you. And you're probably doing that through whoever you bank with already, right? Or if you've done your due diligence, maybe you found that CIBC has a better program for your business than RBC does. But RBC is the biggest bank in Canada. So people go there and they open up a business bank account. And they say, do you need payments? And of course, as a business owner, you're like, yeah, I do. And they say, here, Moneris. And you sign up either there or after the fact, and you sign up with Moneris. So Moneris had, at one point in time, they had like 56 to 58% of the market in Canada. That's a captive audience. So here we are, companies like us, we're trying to go after this market. We're trying to get in. And I think the biggest difference goes back to some of our brand pillars. Support. I don't have a call center. I have a 1-800 number, but it goes to our support staff on the island. Or you have my phone number or one of my staff's phone numbers. So you have an issue. You're not calling a 1-800 number to a call center somewhere. Now, that being said, my partners offer 24/7 support. So you might get a call center, could be in the Caribbean, it could be in Canada, from one of our partners. But your first line of support, if you have any issue, you're coming to us, KISS Payments, right? And you're talking to me or you're talking to one of our staff that know your business. Hey, JJ, no problem. How can I help you today? What's going on? They pull up your account. I can see that you have the What You Do podcast. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we can help. Can you try doing this? And we'll try and fix that issue right away. 99% of the time, we can fix it with you on the phone. So you're talking with a real person. So that support or service level, the banks can't match that. And I don't care what they tell you, they can't. And most of the businesses that we work with, they want that. They want a real person, somebody who knows their business, understands at least what's happening, right? You're not an account number on a file. I'm not saying that's the way Moneris works, but tell me when the big banks have had, or you've had an interaction with the big banks and you've walked away saying, they have my best interests at heart. That was a great interaction. Most of the time when I deal with TD and they have all my banking, corporate and non, it's frustrating as
Oh, dude.
right? But that's it, is the service aspect is there. The other side is pricing. They may give you a good deal, but they will give you a big deal if you're big. And we don't really go after, I have no interest in working with McDonald's or Tim Hortons or Walmart. Like that's not our bread and butter. That's not where we're not set up to facilitate that kind of operation. But I can work with small, medium-sized businesses. I think the largest account we have is probably 12 location barbershop in and around the GTA. Great account for us. I think that at the end of the day, that's the market we specialize in. The owners that we talk to, they want to talk with us. They want to talk with real people, but we can give them the pricing that is very transparent. It's cost effective. We're very open. I'm going to make money off you. But the benefit is 75 to 80% of the money, of the profit that is happening with these transactions with your payment system stays with us. It doesn't go overseas. It doesn't go to the US entity. It doesn't go to a big bank. 80% or 75 to 80% of the profit that's made on this account stays with KISS Payments in Canada, supports real people that are, probably your account manager or your support staff or your sales rep that's visiting you that probably does transactions at your business, probably comes in to buy a coffee or gets a haircut. So that resonates a lot with people as well. And there's this big support local, and, we have it in Niagara where, we have the growers for fruits, vegetables, all the wine. They want people supporting local. Well, that's great. But if you're a business and you're doing your transactions with TD, I promise you can do better. Promise you. And you'll support local because you work with a company like us. And I'm not saying you got to work with KISS, but there are other local companies, payment providers that can do and facilitate exactly what you're looking for that are local, and now you're supporting them. So I've talked to owners, they talk about support local, but I do my processing with RBC. I ask them why. Because all that money is going to corporate, going to shareholders. And that's fine. But don't tell me you want to support local and then you're not even willing to have a conversation, right?
Sure.
And there's some underhanded sales tactics that happen in our industry that not everybody's on the up and up, but you can find the good ones. And people find us all the time. So I think that's a big thing. And that's those differentiating factors: pricing, transparency, service, and support. The banks may be able to talk about it, but show me that you can walk the walk and actually deliver on that promise. And I'm not saying we're great at it. I'm sure we've got some negative reviews online from people that we weren't able to do as good as we could have, but I think we've learned. And if we're going to get better, we got to learn from those, but it's just making sure we don't make the same mistakes and we keep kind of moving forward. And I think we do pretty good at it. We're not great, but that's what makes us keep going. Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wow. I wish we could keep talking.
Well, I'm going to get signed up after this.
Yeah, I know. Seriously. It looks like we're changing our payment provider, huh?
Yeah.
Support
local.
I hope so.
That's awesome. Well, I just want to say a huge thank you, Mark. We like to finish the podcast with a couple of questions we love to ask.
Okay.
If you could give yourself 20-year-old advice, what would it be?
Pay more attention, or I guess more focus. Maybe more focus. At the same time, your 20-year-old stuff, that's when you want to have a time, right? You want to be out there interacting, socializing, doing what you want. But I'd say, a little bit more focus would have been helpful for me.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Are you like an ADHD guy, or are you you can sit down and focus and all that kind of stuff? Or
now I can.
Yeah. Okay.
I think things have happened in my life where I'm more patient or a little bit slower. But I also wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm an emotional guy. I can get excited real bad, or in a good way, I guess. Mm-hmm. But no, I think, over time I've learned. And if I could have learned that faster, I think it would have been a little bit more beneficial. Good things come. I think that was the biggest thing, I worked at something for 10 years, lost it at the end of the day, but I'm, still here, still doing what I love, making a living, supporting my family. A little more focus would have done well, I think. But sure. A little patience, I guess.
Yeah. And that's what drew me to you, even going back in the day, when we first met at Platform 302,
Sure.
a co-working space in Hamilton, and just your energy, the fire about you, the, happy-go-lucky guy that's just running, leaning into stuff and whatnot. And I just remember you and Craig, man, I was like, geez, these guys, I got to be like these guys one day, You had a cool office, all that kind of stuff. And we had some really good times there. And,
Sure.
hats off to Mark and Joe Accardi for setting up that, because
That was big.
Got to meet you, Craig, all the guys there. I'm still in touch with all of them and whatnot. And
that was a big important piece.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
meeting a lot of good people and being able to get the work done, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And lastly, what goals do you have for yourself for the next 5 to 10 years?
I think I want to continue in payments for sure, but I'd like to be able to look at maybe acquiring some piece of technology and having a little bit of ownership into it, whether that's on my own or with a company or with partners. But I think, there's a lot of opportunity in our space, and definitely something I'd like to continue doing. And obviously I'd love to be able to continue on that path.
Cool.
For sure.
Wow.
I guess one more. Who do you look up to, Mark? Who's someone that inspires you to be you?
I think my cousin Martin Lapointe. He's done incredibly well for himself. He has a way of looking at things that I don't think I have, or I don't have his vision, and being able to kind of pull that vision and articulate it. So I bounce a lot of ideas off him, and I see what he's doing, and that just keeps me motivated, right? When people that are close to you, or same age or close in age, that you can look up to and say, like, look what he's doing, or look what they're doing, and that just makes you want to put your foot down a little harder and keep going, right?
Sure,
Wow.
sure.
For sure.
Mark, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being a part of today's podcast. Really appreciate it. Absolutely amazing story. To everyone who is listening, hope you enjoyed today's podcast. If you like it, please hit that like button, hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content. We will be sure to catch you in the next podcast. See you guys.
Amazing. Thanks, guys.
Wow.
Dude,
That was awesome.
unbelievable, dude. Wow.
Great. Oh, man.
Oh my god.
You guys are really good, eh? Like, I just
We're good.
no.